And the lecture tonight is the 5 most powerful principles for successful relationships. And when I say the 5 most powerful principles, I'm not exaggerating. And I didn't make them up either. We're going to derive them from the most powerful place we can derive them in the entire Torah. And understand how these 5 principles perhaps will enhance every relationship we're in. Where are we going to derive them from? We're going to derive them from the 10 Commandments. So in order to do this, first we have to review what the 10 Commandments are. Now we know that God gave us 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments were given at Har Sinai, at the mountain of Sinai. They were given, the first 2 at least, were given to the entire Jewish people, where the Jewish nation actually witnessed God. They saw an intimate experience with Hashem. Then it says they died. Then Moshe had to come and get the rest. God had to revive them. But the 10 Commandments basically were given in front of the entire Jewish people. Now why did God choose to give 10 Commandments? Why did He do this? There's something special about these 10 Commandments, which are obviously some sort of route directory for the rest of the Torah. That these 10 Commandments somehow key you into the whole purpose and principle of Torah, which is why God gave us these 10. So let's just review for a moment the 10, and let's see if we like them all. First one is Anochi Hashem Elochecha Asher Hotzeisicha Be'eretz Mitzrayim Mibeis Avodim. First one is Anochi Hashem, I'm Hashem. Good? We vote yes? If we were the committee, we're the committee deciding the 10 Commandments. This is the Bukharian Jewish community on the 10 Commandments committee. And we have to vote. What do we think should be the top 10 to be on the tablets and to inscribe on our synagogues? So good. Anochi Hashem. What did you say? Okay. Anochi Hashem. Is that one? Anochi Hashem. I am the Lord your God? Yes, no? Good. I'm with you. I vote yes. Second one. Lo sa'aselecha peso kol tamuna asher b'shamayim imal v'asher b'aretz mitachas. You shouldn't have any false gods, in brief. Yes? Yeah. No false gods? Yes, no? Yes. Good. With you. How about this one? Number 3. Lo sisa eshem Hashem Elochecha l'shav. You shouldn't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Yes? No? Anybody vote no?
No.
Anybody vote yes?
Yes.
Okay. What does it mean? The commandment not to take God's name in vain. Let me explain what it means. It means, amongst a couple things, it means not to swear falsely. Now, what does it mean to swear falsely? There are 2 types of oaths that you could make. One type of oath is as this. One type of oath is an oath where, let's say, I borrowed $100,000 from my friend Reuben, and I deny that he lent me the money. I claim he did not lend me the money. So he drags me to court. He drags me to the Jewish Beit Din. And they ask me, Rabbi Kraft, did you borrow this $100,000 from Reuben? And I say, no. They say, okay, take an oath. Swear in the name of God that you didn't borrow this $100,000. Now, if I swear in the name of God, you know what? I'm believed. Why? Because swearing in the name of God is a very powerful thing. People are usually scared to use God's name in vain. Therefore, if I swear in God's name, I would be believed in a court of law, even if I'm lying. But I would be believed. That's one type of oath. Another type of oath is, for example, if I look at this chair, or somebody looks at this chair, and makes an oath and says, I swear this is a couch. I swear this chair is an automobile. I swear this chair is a refrigerator. That's another type of oath.
Well, that makes no sense.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Which one of those 2 types of oaths do you think is the 10 Commandments are referring to when it says you will not take the name of the Lord your God in vain? Which one? It's referring to one of them. Which one? Vote number 1 is the person swears falsely in court in order to try to get away with 100,000. Second one is the person swears this chair is a refrigerator. Who votes for the first one? First? Who votes for the second? What do we think? Who will vote for the first? Why? Who wants to say why? Why do you vote for the first? Not because I voted for the first. Never play Simon Says with me. I'm a very, very sneaky Simon Says player. Go, why?
Because you're basically not using God's name in vain, and if you're swearing upon God's name, then you're saying in vain. if you're like saying something false.
Remember, in the first case, I'm using God's name to try to get away with $100,000. A person's going to swear in God's name, I definitely did not borrow the money, and he wins. He swears in God's name. Second case, he says something stupid. The person swears this chair is a couch or a refrigerator. So you claim that it's the first one the Torah is talking about, which the Torah says, thou shalt not take God's name in vain. Who said it was the second one? Anybody say it was the second one? Good, why?
Because it's like shtuyot to say the,
Shtuyot.
yeah, and it's that's what I would consider in vain.
Okay, so what's the answer? The answer is it's curtain number 2. Number 2. When the Torah says, thou shalt not take the name of the God, your God in vain, it's referring to don't swear that this chair is something besides a chair. Don't swear this chair is a car, this chair is a couch, this chair is a refrigerator. But if you asked me, if we were the committee deciding, well, don't use God's name in vain, you know what I would say? I think I would have voted for number 1, personally. Why? Because, if you're going to use God's name in vain, and try to get away with $100,000, that's really bad. To use God's name to, do something silly or stupid with it, it's not nice, but does it have to be in the Ten Commandments? What's it doing in the Ten Commandments? Okay, hold this whole question for a moment. That's the question I have. What's that doing in the Ten Commandments? Let's just hold the questions for a minute, because we're just going to keep it moving for a little bit. Okay, hold the questions. Unless they're really, really important, you just have to say it. Okay, DJ, say your question.
It's not a question. The first one is like you're swearing that God is God. Yeah, it's true. He is God.
Okay.
It seems more upsetting to say I swear. That
Okay, because it's silly. It's true. Maybe it's not going to be more damaging to society, but it's maybe abusing God's name more. Good. I hear you. Good. Okay, commandment number 4, excuse me. Shemor Yom Shabbos L'Kadisho. Keep Shabbos. What do we say with the committee? Should it be in the Ten Commandments? Keep Shabbos? Yes? Good. I'm there 100%. Keep Shabbos should definitely be in there. 6 days you will work, 7th day will be for Hashem. Good. Commandment number 4. Commandment number 5. Kabit es avicha vesimecho. Honor your mother and your father. Commandment number 5. What do we say? Yes, no?
Yes.
Honor parents? Good. I'm with you on number 5 as well. Commandment number 6. Lo sirtzach, don't kill.
Yes.
We're all in agreement? Yes, good. Commandment number 7. Lo sinaf, don't commit adultery.
Yes.
In agreement? Good, with you. Commandment number 8. Lo signov, don't steal. Yes, no? Okay, problem with this one. It says in the Torah, 2 places don't steal. Lo signov, lo sigzol. In one case, it's talking about don't kidnap. What do you think the Ten Commandments is talking about? The general commandment of not to steal, or the specific commandment of not to kidnap? It's talking about the specific commandment of not to kidnap. Question. Will the committee writing the Ten Commandments, isn't that a little bit too specific?
Yeah.
I mean, shouldn't there be the more general principle of lo signov, which is don't steal, don't rob somebody, but not to kidnap? That's very specific. I dare say that I might not have included that one. I might have put the more general one in of just don't steal. Good? Good question? Okay. Number 9. Lo sa'ana b'reicha et shav. Don't be a false witness in a court of law. That means if someone brings you in to testify about something in a court of law, that let's say that they lent money or whatever it might be, or that you witnessed someone damaged someone's property, you have to swear falsely. You can't lie. Include that one in?
Yes.
Yes? Good. Okay, I'm with you. It's a good one. How about number 10? V'lo sachamod eishes re'echa v'lo sisava beis re'echa. 2 things. Lo sachama, don't covet. Don't be jealous of what another person has. And don't desire it. Let's call it don't covet. Don't be jealous. Don't desire what someone has. Yes, no?
Yes.
I don't know. To be honest with you, that's a tough one. First of all, it's that mitzvah exists in the heart. Lo sachamot is in the heart. It means not to be jealous of someone. Someone gets married, don't be jealous that you wished you married that person. Someone buys a beautiful house, don't feel, I wish I had that. Someone has a nice car, don't feel, oh, I wish I got the car. That's what it says. It's a mitzvah of the heart. Lo sachamot. Sometimes it could be expressed out in action. For example, if somebody really doesn't want to sell a piece of property, but you put pressure on them and you insist, and your people call them, and finally they sell you the property, even if they offer you a good price, or they give you, you give them a good price for it, one has violated the commandment of los sachamod, because they really didn't want to sell it. You desired something they had. So sometimes it could be expressed in action as well, or it could be expressed just in the heart of not desiring what someone else has, jealousy. What do we say? Should it be the Ten Commandments?
Yes.
I mean, this is my big question. If I only have 10 spaces on the page, what about the important commandment of not afflicting the widow, or not afflicting the orphan, or taking care of the poor, or really holy commandments like Yom Kippur, or perhaps keeping kosher? What about all these important commandments? How come not being jealous makes it in, and all those important commandments like not oppressing the widow or the orphan is left out? So I dare say that might be a question as well. Yeah?
I think the Ten Commandments are basically there because it reflects on the actual person itself. Let's say, keeping kosher. Actually, the example of the widow. Let's say, like, it doesn't affect your personality in daily life as much as it would if you would be jealous. That could really destroy a person and really bring you to do very bad things. Go murder. That can also it just exacerbates your human being.
I hear what you're saying. No, it's definitely a human thing. Not to be jealous could lead to a very productive, happy life if we're not jealous, 100%. We'll be much happier people if we won't be jealous, 100%. But if we only have 10 spaces to include the most 10 important principles of Torah, that should be included, and it's something that takes place internally in the heart, it's hard to hear a little bit. That's just my problem. But I hear what you're saying, and I think it's a very, very good point. I'll hold this 1 second. Now let me ask everybody a question. It's going to sound like a little bit of a flippant question, like a little bit of a joke, but it's somewhat serious. Why did God need 2 tablets? You already answered once. Why did God need 2 tablets? What? One is not enough. Isn't that a joke they say? Moshe Rabbeinu said, how much do they cost? He said, they're free, so I'll take 2. Yeah, why do we need 2? 10 is definitely an important number, but why a division of 5 and 5? Why a division of 5 and 5? 5 and 5 is...
Well, yeah, one is between people and God, and one is between people and people.
Okay. So oftentimes, the fact that we look at 10 Commandments up there, see the 10 Commandments? We notice that we have 5 on one side and 5 on the other side, and we're all familiar with that. Now, if God chose to put 5 on one tablet and 5 on another tablet, obviously God was trying to teach us some essential division, some essential difference between the first and the second tablets, first side and the second side. So oftentimes what people say is, the first 5 have to do with the relationship between man and God, between Adam l'makom, and the second side have to do between Adam v'Adam, man and man, man and God. The first 5, we see Anochi Hashem, I am God, no other God beside me, does my name in vain. Remember Shabbos, honor mother and father. Second side, don't kill, don't have adultery, don't kidnap, don't be a false witness in court, and don't be jealous. Those are mitzvahs between man and man. That's often what people say. So I have a question. Ezra's mechav into my question, and my question is, what's wrong with that split? There's something essentially wrong with that split. What is it?
An abridgment.
Which commandment doesn't fit in that line? Man and God and man and man. Commandment number?
Honor your mother and your father.
Commandment number 5. Commandment number 5 is to honor man, is to honor one's parents. One would think that should be on the side of commandments between man and one's fellow man, not on the side between man and God. So perhaps we have to have a different alignment. What is that alignment? Perhaps that alignment is that the first 5 commandments are really between man and his creators. And who are our creators? Well, let's see. We have mother, father, and God. Side 2 are the relationships between man and one's fellow man. And therefore, putting the 5th commandment of honoring one's parents on the side of man and his creators fits very nicely. Now, it's very interesting. The commandment to honor one's parents is a very, very unique commandment in the Torah, because it's extreme. It means that one is obligated to honor one's parents, but one doesn't need to like one's parents. One doesn't have to like them, but one has to honor them. How far does honoring go? So the Talmud brings different cases. It brings a case of a certain big rabbi, and he was holding court with all of his students surrounding him, and he was saying over beautiful words of Torah, and his mother comes in and spits in his face, and he doesn't react because he has to show her honor. Another case is a case where a father takes the money bag, a big wallet full of cash of his son, and he takes it and he throws it into the sea, and the son doesn't react. Such extreme examples of how far one has to go to honor one's parents. And that's why I say it's a very, very interesting mitzvah, because you have to honor them, but it doesn't mean you have to like them, but you have to honor them. And I'm going to explain why in a moment. Okay, so keep that in mind. Gloria?
But I heard if you do something you like a smile, if you don't like them, but you actually do something for them, you're not getting anything out.
Obviously, the highest level of the mitzvah is to do it in a way where you actually feel tremendous love and gratitude and devotion.
But if you said you don't have to like them, it says you do all the nicest things in the world, but you don't smile to them, you're not.
There's still things you have to do for them. You know, even if they're abusive and whatever they might be, one still has to make sure they have clothing and lodging and are being taken care of and have food and all the things that are done as part of the mitzvah honoring parent. Maybe stand up for them. But if obviously in abusive type settings, one does have to be careful for oneself, obviously. But one has to honor, and I'm going to explain why in a moment, why that honor exists, even if one doesn't necessarily like them. And hopefully we do like them. We should like them. Nice people usually. I'm a parent. I'm a nice person. So, let's take a look for a moment. Now I have one more question for everybody. The question is like this. If I were to ask you the most fundamental mitzvah in the entire Torah, what might you tell me? What's the most important mitzvah in the entire Torah? What would we say? Noki Hashem might be one.
Study of Torah.
Study of Torah might be one. Lashon Hara. Shabbos. Other suggestions? What did you say? So we say Rabbi Akiva tells us what it is. Rabbi Akiva tells us that the most important mitzvah in the Torah is the mitzvah called V'ahavta l'reacha chamocha. V'ahavta l'reacha chamocha. To love your fellow man like you love yourself. One time the Gemara tells us that a certain convert came to Hillel and said, teach me Torah on one foot, meaning give me the whole principle of Torah while you're standing on your foot. I want to hear the whole principle of Torah in one elevator conversation. You have 30 seconds to tell me the whole Torah. What is it? So Hillel tells him simply, V'ahavta l'reacha chamocha, to love your fellow man like you love yourself. But Hillel doesn't express it like that. He says, don't do to your friend that which is hateful to you. Everything else is commentary, go and learn. The whole guiding principle of the entire Torah is to love another person. V'ahavta l'reacha chamocha. Now the Gemara asks a very fascinating question on that and says, wait a minute, that's beautiful. But isn't that missing a very big half of the Torah? What half is it missing? What about between man and God? Granted, that's talking about man and man, but what about between man and God? So you know what the Gemara answers? The Gemara says, God's also your friend. V'ahavta l'reacha, God's also your reacha. He's also your friend. Meaning, the relationships that you build with people, you're supposed to try to build the exact same relationship with God. They go hand in hand. The way we relate to Hashem, the way we relate to people, it's the same thing. Now why is this? Why is this principle the whole underlying principle of all of Torah? And I'll try to explain what it means. Why? If we think about it, the whole purpose of creation is to get to know God. Now what does that mean? It means that I have to create myself to be other-centered. Not to see myself as the center of the world, but to see God as a being outside of myself who I could love and honor and respect. And at the same time, in my relationships with human beings, I have to get out of my self-centeredness and begin to see another human being for who and what they are. The tendency in life, of course, is to be totally self-absorbed. As we know, little babies are born with one need, the big I, themselves. That's all babies want. Children grow up a little bit, and begin to notice that, wait a minute, there are other people, and you begin to have to teach children to share and to notice somebody else, be sensitive to another child's needs. And then little children become teenagers, and usually they regress back to where they were as babies, but fortunately they get past that period, and then they go on. And the goal in life is to be other-centered. It's to realize that, God, you exist, and I'm not the center of this world. And if a person could gain that sensitivity to the existence of God outside of oneself, it means one has totally transformed their nature. I have taken myself, and I have become a human being that's capable of realizing that there's a creator. I'm not absorbed with myself, I'm other-centered. And that's the whole purpose of the human being. The refinement of a human being is to become other-focused, other-centered. That's it. And through that, one's capable of having a relationship with God. And by having a relationship with God, one can therefore prepare himself to be capable of receiving God's pleasure for eternity. Now that concept is a concept which we call the ahavta l'recha chamocha. It means that you have to love somebody who is not you. You have to relate outside yourself to a human being or to God who is distant, separate from you. That's the goal of life. To take my own selfishness and to transform it into being other-centered. To realize that people or God exist outside of me. I am not the center of the world. There is a creator. And that's it. In one, if you could define all of Judaism in a nutshell, it's v'yahavta l'recha chamocha, to love somebody else. Meaning to not view yourself as a center, but to look out of yourself, view God as being the center, and see someone else's needs as being important. And that takes a lot of work. Because as I said, we're not born like that. We're born as babies being very selfish. And the human being tends to be very selfish. You know, that's why oftentimes the word I is a big part of a person's conversation. You know, I'm very concerned when I hear people saying I a lot. I did this, I did that. You know, well, look what happened to me. I get a little bit nervous. Because I see a person is very into themselves. The the capital I. It's a very, very dangerous thing. You know, in the great yeshiva of Kelm, the way they were trained to speak is you never spoke about the I, you always spoke about we. This is what we did. This is what happened to us. This is what we accomplished. It's not about I, it's about we. Recognize that other people helped you. You're not the center. The we did something. The I is a very dangerous thing. It means that I feel that I am the center. That's a very, very negative personality trait. You know, I saw in the last week's parsha, something I just saw just interested me so much, because it says that the baker, when he's speaking to the student, the Sar Mashkim, the butler, when he describes what happened to him in jail and Yosef translated the dreams for him, so listen to what he said. V'yidaber Sar HaMashkim es Paro Leimon, the Sar Mashkim spoke to Paro saying, he said, Es chatoy ani mazcher yom. Oh, I remember my sin that I remember today. Paro kotzuf alavada. Paro got angry on his servant. V'yiten oti, and put me, b'mishmar, into jail. Beisar tavachim oti, me. V'yatzara ofos, and the baker. V'nachlemo chalom b'laylo, and we had dreams there. Echad ani, and me. V'hu, and him. Ish pitronu chalomu chalamno, and he solved all of our dreams. I noticed in that sentence, he mentions the word I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So our rabbis pick up on that and say that's a sign of a low person. Where he could have said the word I once, he says it 5 times. Because the challenge of life is to get out of oneself, is to be other-centered. Is to realize that I am not the center, there exists a God outside of me. Human beings are outside of me, they're not just my appendages, not part of my body. They exist and they're real, I have to love them and care for them. It's not all about me. If one could have that attitude in life, not only one will have a happy life, but one will have transformed one's personality from selfishness to selflessness, to other-centered. That is the sign of a tzaddik. It's a sign of refinement. It's a sign of a neshama that's really worked on himself. So now I'm going to suggest something to everybody. If that's the goal of the Torah, if the goal of the Torah is v'yahavta l'recha chamocha, That is the purpose of it all. To love your fellow man like yourself. And our rabbis say that means God also. He's also your friend. The same tools you need for man applies to God also. If that's the purpose of Torah, to love another being, whether it be God, whether it be another human being, I'm going to suggest something to everybody. I'm going to suggest that the Ten Commandments are giving us the means to achieve that end, which means how to have a successful relationship, whether it be in the world of man and his creators, or whether it be in the world of man and man. Now, the title of this lecture is the 5 most important principles for succeeding in healthy relationships. There are 10 commandments. So why are we talking about 5 principles? The answer is something very fascinating. Our rabbis teach us in an amazing medrash that the 10 commandments were written in a way that you have 5 on one tablet and you have 5 on the other tablet. They're designed in a way that really they're supposed to face each other like this. Fold in on each other. Meaning that 1 corresponds to 6, 2 corresponds to 7, 3 corresponds to 8, 4 corresponds to 9, and 5 corresponds to 10. So in essence, there are really perhaps 5 points that express themselves in 2 different ways. In the world of man relating to God, and the world of man relating to man. Let's see what I mean. What's commandment number 1 on the side of man and God? Anochi Hashem Elochecha, I am God. What's commandment number 6? Lo tzach, don't kill. What's the common denominator? Don't murder. Don't murder, right? Don't murder. What's the common denominator? Don't kill is the correct right. Sometimes killing is permitted. Someone's a road, someone's an enemy, sometimes we have to kill. Murder means taking his life purpose without. So what's the common denominator of both of them? Let's take a look. The first commandment on the side of man and God is Anochi Hashem Elochecha, I am the Lord of your God. Now, it's interesting. The Torah doesn't command believe in God. You know why it doesn't command believe in God? It doesn't command believe in God just like it doesn't say believe in gravity. It's reality. Anochi Hashem Elochecha means be aware of the reality of God. Anochi Hashem. Be aware of God's existence. God exists. Anochi Hashem Elochecha. I am the Lord your God. Focus on the existence of God as being something outside of you. Not, of course, that God didn't plant an neshama inside of us, which He did. But be aware of God as a being who is not you. There is the existence of God. Now, why do I say that? I say it like this because there are 2 ways to relate to God. Sometimes a person can relate to God almost in a selfish way. What might be a selfish way of relating to God? Well, God, I need you. You know, I need health, and I need parnassah, I need livelihood, and I need food, and I need a shidduch, and I need a job, right? And I need a house, and there's so many things that I need in life. So God, I need you, right? So I can relate to God almost in a way where I want to get to know Him. Why? Because He's the great candy man in the sky, and I need Him. But in essence, why am I loving Him, or why am I serving Him, or why am I devoting myself to Him? Because I love Him, or because I love myself? Perhaps because I love myself. You know, we mentioned a few weeks ago in the story of Cain and Abel that God was very upset by Cain's offering. Cain offered to God the worst of the crops, as we remember. The worst of the crops. And God turns to him and said, listen, that's not the type of offering I want. Now what happened? Why was God so upset with Cain's offering? That God says to him, look, you know, why'd you give me all the second-rate stuff over here? So it looked like that Cain's offering was a very calculated offering. Cain was a farmer. He wanted to make things grow from the ground. But he knew that he needed God. He needed Hashem. He needed Hashem for the wind and for the rain. And he needed Hashem for the dew in the morning. And he needed Hashem for the fertilizer in the soil. And all those things that cause crops to grow. So therefore, when he gave God a gift, it was a gift that says, look, I need you, so take a gift. It wasn't a gift of God, like, I'm so aware of your awesomeness. I'm so aware of how wonderful you are and how good you are to me. Therefore, my heart is overflowing with gratitude. It was a calculated gift. You know, a calculated gift is not a gift that we want. You know, in marriage you can give calculated gifts also. You know, for example, you know it's your wife's birthday. and you know if you don't give a gift, she's going to be upset at you, and you have $3 to your name, so you have a choice. So let's see, you could search around the city and find that perfect rose, which is purple and red and violet and yellow and indigo, all those beautiful colors. You know that she'd love it. So you search around the city, you find that beautiful rose, $3, you buy it, you give it to her. She appreciates it. Or it could happen that, you come up from work, you get off the subway and you go, oh my gosh, it's her birthday tonight. I can't believe it. I better get something. So you look around. Oh, there's Rite Aid over there. So you go into Rite Aid and you think, well, what can I get her for $3? I don't know. She has dental floss. I guess her electric toothbrush is working still. You're looking around the aisles, and then you spot the perfect gift. What do you see? Oh, a chocolate heart box over there filled with chocolates. You look at it. Oh, $2.99, perfect. So you pick it up, you buy it, you forget to take the price off it, you put it in the Rite Aid bag, you walk home, happy birthday, honey, right? And she looks at it and says, well, that was tremendously thoughtful, And she understands that was a calculated gift. You don't want her to be upset, so you bought her something, but not because you recognized her essence and what she's all about and what she does for you and who she is, but because you need her. You don't want her to be upset, and you need her to, you need her to be in a good mood. You don't want her to be upset with you. That's a very calculated gift. That's one way, but it's not because I recognize your essence. The first commandment of the Torah is a commandment that says, Anochi Hashem Elochecha. Notice that God exists, and He doesn't just exist to make you happy. Notice who God really is. Take a look at Him closely. Take a look at what He's all about. Notice His existence. He's separate from you. He has an existence. His existence isn't just to provide you with your candy. His existence is something very, very special. He's outside of you. Notice that. Now that's in the world of man and God. In the world of man and man, it says, Lo sirtzach, don't kill. What would be the ultimate betrayal of the realization that somebody exists separate from you? To take that person's life. To take somebody's life is really feeling that person in some way is just an appendage, an arm of you, and if they get in your way, you could kill them. If you recognize that this person is something very unique and special outside of you, how could you possibly take their life? So I'm going to suggest something. Commandment number 1 and number 6 are really teaching us a very important principle. For a relationship to be successful, you have to acknowledge that the other exists outside of you. That person is a person, or that person is God, and they have an existence not just because of you. This is a big problem. For example, I've heard it sometimes in education. Sometimes parents don't want to put their children into special education programs. You know why? Because they're embarrassed. Embarrassed as the parent. My child is in special education. Or maybe it's going to affect the shidduch of an older daughter. Is that loving the child for who the child is? Or is that loving oneself? Is that child just an expression of me? Therefore, the child is just an expression of me. Or if a parent says, I know it would be the best thing to send my child out of town somewhere to go to yeshiva, but it would really hurt me too much to have to send the child away. So does one really love the child for who the child is? Or is one really loving the child because one loves oneself? And the child makes me feel happy. That's not love. For love to be there, there has to be an appreciation that the other exists independently of you. God exists. He's there. He's independent. Your husband, your wife, they exist independently of you. There's something special and unique about them. They're not there just to make you happy. Focus on their existence. It's not about you, it's about seeing them for who they are. Seeing God for who God is. So I dare say that's the first principle. Principle number 1 is be aware of the existence of the other as separate from you. And that's why number 1 corresponds to number 6. I am God, don't kill. You hear it? Don't kill is just an expression of, feeling that person's part of me. I can take their life. If you really recognize that person as somebody totally special, totally unique, how can you take their life? Can't do it. That's how it works. Let's take a look at number 2. Second commandment in the Torah is what? What's the second commandment? No idols And number 7 is, don't commit adultery. What's the connection between those two?
You don't become God, you don't betray God, you don't betray anyone else.
So it's interesting. There's a very deep connection. Basically, the connection is this. Why does God say, don't worship any other gods? I'm a jealous God. Is God really jealous? God doesn't have the human emotion of jealousy. What God is saying is that if you want this relationship between me and you to be important and to be special, don't mix in anything that doesn't belong here. Don't bring into this relationship somebody or something that doesn't belong. If relationship is going to work, one has to realize that what? That there is something totally, totally unique and special about the other, and nobody can replace the other. Now what does that mean? It means like this. You know, the human body, our body parts are generic. You know, there's very little difference between our ears and our noses and our eyes, right? We're all pretty much the same in terms of our physical being. Adultery, in essence, is basically saying, I can replace the physical part of this person with the physical part of that person. That's all it is. But if a person were really to look deeply and say, you know, this person is so unique, there will never be another man like this man in the world. There will never be another woman like this woman ever. That this person was born at a certain time, at a certain place, on a certain day because of the specialness of this person. As the Gemara says, just as our faces are different, the internal makeup of who we are is totally different. If a person were to look at one's spouse and say, there will never be a person like this ever again, then it means that person is totally irreplaceable. You can't replace that person. And therefore, adultery makes absolutely no sense. Adultery means that all you're focusing on is the external aspect of that person. You want to see something external. Oh, okay, so you're tired of that externality? I guess I'll try that externality over there. You know, I'm really bored with these ears. I'll try those ears. You know? That's all it really is. But if one were to look at the essence of the person and realize that there's something very deep about you, you're irreplaceable, how could you replace somebody else? You want to hang out to something external? That's not who the person is. The person is something much deeper than the ears. There's something very real. There's an neshama, there's a soul. So what's it saying? Idolatry is the same thing. God is saying, don't believe in false gods. Right? Don't replace me for something external, like an idol. Get to know the real me. Go inside and get to know me. Don't find some false substitute. God's saying, if you're really going to get to know me, you're going to find I'm irreplaceable. But you got to get to really know me. Now, let me ask you a question. Why do you think people don't always like to look really deeply into somebody else? Why do you think sometimes people are comfortable just by seeing something very physical in the other? You know what I think it is? I'm going to suggest something, and it's a little bit of a mature concept. But on some level, people are really afraid of intimacy. Are afraid of intimacy. People don't want to be intimate. I don't just mean physical intimacy, I mean emotional intimacy. That if a person's going to really let the other person in, you know when a person can feel like I'm letting go of myself. You know, at the first time, you know, maybe you've had this experience, you're all dating, right? Hopefully, I don't know, some of you are dating. Whoever's dating should be dating, whoever shouldn't be dating shouldn't be dating, whoever you're holding. But the process is always going to be the same. It's going to be the point where you finally go out with somebody and this is the person that you feel something special with. And you might look into the other's eyes and it's almost thrilling. It's really thrilling. You feel a connection like you've never felt before. And you know what happens afterwards? It's very terrifying. It's very scary. Why is it scary? It's scary because the more you let that person enter your inner world, the more you feel like you're losing a little bit of who you are. And you kind of stop. People will stop. Say, look, let's not get so, let's hold hands or something like that. Let's relate physically because I'm too scared to go any deeper emotionally. It's interesting. It's true in our relationship with God as well. The idea of worshiping an idol is the same concept. God, it's too scary to have to get to know you passionately because I realize, wow, I'm really indebted to you and like you're everything. So let me just relate to something physical about you, like an idol. Or let me relate to some golden calf or some expression of you, like some, you know? But intimacy is scary. So what the Torah is telling us, it's saying it's a very important principle. It's telling to us that in order for relationships to function and be really good, there could be no idolatry and there could be no adultery. It almost sounds the same in English, doesn't it? But what's the operating principle? The operating principle is don't mix something in that doesn't belong there. Because if you recognize how important and how unique the other is, that person is, or that God, or God, is irreplaceable. Notice and appreciate how unique the other is, the uniqueness of the other. The other exists outside of you, and focus on the uniqueness. And if you focus on the uniqueness, you'll realize, wait a minute, how can I replace them? They're irreplaceable. Idolatry means that I'm focusing on something external about God, therefore I can have an idol. Adultery means I'm focusing on something external about one's wife or one's husband, and therefore I can replace it by somebody else. Focus on the uniqueness. If you see uniqueness, you realize that the other is irreplaceable. There can be no other gods before me, and there can be no other wife or husband before me. Focus on uniqueness. So number one means recognize existence of other outside of you. The relationship isn't there to serve you, it's to appreciate the other exists. Number two is recognize the uniqueness of the other. What's the third principle? Well, let's see. Commandment number 3 says, don't take God's name in vain, which means don't swear that a chair is a refrigerator. And commandment number 7 says, don't kidnap. Lo signov. Don't kidnap. What's the connection between the two?
Don't take its true identity away.
Well, let's see.
Can I ask? I'm from Israel.
Ken?
עשרת הדיברות, it's Anochi Adonai, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I look at this. Why do you make it like the 1 is like 6, 2 is 7? What do I never...
So I'm explaining a medrash that says...
There's no connection?
Yes, so I'm explaining a medrash that says that they fold in on each other. That they face each other and they fold in each other. That really one corresponds, that they face each other like this in the medrash. Therefore 1 corresponds to 6, 2 corresponds to 7, 3 to 8, 4 to 9, 5 to 10. And therefore there's an underlying principle of 1 and 6, 2, 7, 3, 8, 4, 9, 5, 10. That's what the medrash teaches us. It's a concept.
But it looks like there's...
No, true. That's the way we write it like that, true. But the medrash says that they face each other also. And therefore there's a connection like that. A parallel connection. So that's what I'm trying to explain. So therefore I'm trying to explain there's a connection between not taking God's name in vain and not kidnapping. No, I think it's like this. Basically, I think the underlying principle of both is respect the boundaries and the property of the other. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's see. In the world of man and man, it means to respect the other's property. What is our most valued property that we have? I guess it's ourself or our child. Don't steal it. You can steal a person's house, their car, right? You can steal a person's money, or you can steal a person's child, or you can steal you. Someone could steal you. It's really an expression of saying that for a relationship to flourish, respect that which belongs to the other. Respect their property. Respect their boundaries. In the world of man and God, well, what's God's possession? If you could say God has something which is His, what might it be? Well, it might be His name. Don't trash His name. Don't take that name and bring it in the mud. Don't take God's holy name and use it to do something totally nonsense dick with it, like swear a chair is anything but a chair. Don't trash His name. Respect the property, which means respect that which belongs to the other. Now, if the person is somebody separate from you, one will respect that. But one has to view it like that. You know, oftentimes with children, people might, think like, let me borrow, I need a little money, so let me go to my kid's wallet, and let me borrow a few dollars from my kid, So you know why a person thinks like that? Well, look, it's really my money anyway, so, I gave it to them, so I'll use it when I need it. It might be true in principle, but, it's not going to do much for the relationship. Because the relationship has to be that the child feels, well, you respect my property, you respect who I am as a person. You respect my borders, my boundaries. You're not going to trample and invade on things that are mine. Sometimes we think in relationships, in husbands and wives, Now we're so intimate and we're so close, we're so loving, mine is yours and yours is mine. And that doesn't work that way. To really respect another human being and have a relationship that flourishes, one has to be very, very certain and very careful about the boundaries of the other. This is yours. I'm not going to touch it. You asked me not to touch it. You asked me not to use it. You can respect the other's property. There are boundaries. God created a real world of physicality, and you have to respect that which belongs to the other. So for relationships to really go forth in man and man, respect the boundaries of the other. Respect their property. Respect their possessions. Respect that which is theirs. In the world of man and God, respect God's name. Don't use God's name in vain. Have a certain respect for what is God's possession, as it were, maybe His name, and don't use it falsely. Don't swear falsely. Realize that God, there's also a boundary in your relationship with God. That God, you're right, is all present and so involved, but have respect for Him. Have respect for that which is His. Be careful. Yeah, Rabbi?
Are we actually allowed to swear?
No. Under very few situations. I mean, there could be a certain time to Shvuah Shav. There could be certain times when a person when a person might use God's name to prove something in a Beit Din, something like that, or one might make a certain Shvuah under certain situations. But for the most part, we avoid it because an oath can be very damaging. An oath, if we don't fulfill an oath, it can be very bad for us spiritually because it's very obligatory. It really obligates. It's very scary.
So what are we supposed to say, like, instead of, like, going to somebody believing what you, for example, did, most of the people will be like, I swear, like, my mother, or I swear to God, like, I did that,
You shouldn't say that. One should not use the word I swear in conversation. It's a very binding type statement. It's really obligatory. It's if we don't fulfill what we say, it can be, it's not good for us spiritually. It's like when someone takes a vow. When one takes a vow, God says, when you take a vow, why do people take vows? For example, a person says, I'm good. A person says, they make a vow that they're going to give $100 to charity. They make a vow they're going to give money to something, and then they don't do it. So what God does? I'll tell you what God does. This is very scary. What God does, it says, is that God opens up our ledger in heaven. There's a notebook in heaven that on it is written our merits and our deficits. The good things we've done and the bad things. God is a wonderful parent, and as a wonderful parent, most of the time God avoids and doesn't look at what we do. Right? That's the trick to parenting. I'll tell you, if I'm going to be the trick to parenting in one easy lesson, it's keep your eyes closed. Don't look. You don't have to see everything. Let children fix their mistakes by themselves. They'll do it. God's a wonderful parent. He gives us a chance to fix up mistakes. We're not perfect. The human being isn't perfect. None of us. Right? But what God does is God said, let me give you time to correct who you are. I'm not going to step in. However, there's certain times when God has to step in. So the Talmud tells us that if a person makes an vow, makes an oath, they swear I'm going to do something, and then they don't do it, you know what happens? God says, well, let me see. You took a vow to do something. Why did you think that you're going to be around here tomorrow to fulfill it? You didn't fulfill it yet. It must be that you think that you're going to be around next week or the week after. Well, you see that people in the world die. So it must mean that you feel that you have special merit that you can live on. So God says, oh, you want to rely on your merits? Let me take a look at the merit sheet. Let me see what you have. Once that little notebook is opened up there, God sees our merits, but He also sees our chavot. He also sees our deficits. And when He sees our deficits, things could happen that we don't want to happen. So it's a very scary thing to take oaths, to swear, to make vows. That's why we say b'li neder all the time, without making a vow, without making an oath. Okay, very, very important. Even Erev Rosh Hashanah, we undo any oath we might have made, because God opens the ledger. He says, let me take a look. We don't want to take a look. God loves us. He wants not to have to look too deeply at our ledger page, unless we draw attention to it by saying to Him, I want to rely on merit. Okay? Yeah, Dan, quick question, what do you want to say?
Say you make a vow and you have trouble keeping it, for instance. Like, say you vow, I'll never yell at my mother again, and she drives you crazy every day.
Right, don't make a vow like that.
No, but say you did, and you thought you could handle it, and then, is there a way to get, a vow annulled or something?
Yeah, you can.
You need a rabbi.
You need 3 rabbis.
LOR.
Right, you could do it, but don't make vows. Don't do it. Dangerous thing to do. Yeah. What?
It's like not to swear in the name of God, but if you just swear, not even you just swear without God's name.
Well, that's not what I mean. Just to swear.
Yeah, just to swear.
So-
Is that what you
Well, it could be maybe taking a vow, a neder, or maybe it's taking an oath, and make.
That would be taking like a neder.
It's like a neder on some level. We shouldn't use it because I'm saying it's dangerous for us. I'm saying the reason why it's the same concept. In other words, this is what I'm trying to explain. It's not really directed to nice discussion, but it's good to know that God wants to, most of the time, not look at the negative things that we do. He loves us too much. He wants to let us fix ourselves up alone, by ourselves. However, if we say to God, look, a person makes a netter, I'm definitely going to give $100. And then the person doesn't do it. So God said, why didn't you do it? Well, you're an intelligent person. It must feel you're thinking you're going to be around next week to do it. But look, you know that the natural way of the world is people die. So why do you think you're going to be around next week? Oh, it must be that you feel that you have mitzvahs, that you have schuyot, that you have merit. So God says, you want to play the merit game? Let me open up the merit book. So you might open up the merit book to see all the good things we've done, but at the same time, when that book is open, the other book is open. And it could be that they cancel each other out, or, we use merits up, or that, unfortunately, there might be a, something that God notices that he takes action for. Yeah.
If you're not sure and you say, I'm going to pay you $100 tomorrow, whatever, and you say God willing.
That's what we say. That's what we say, bleed netter. That's what we say without taking an oath, right? That helps us, yeah. That's what we said. Bleed netter without taking a vow, without not making a vow. I'm going to do my best without taking a vow. Bleed netter. It's not just a ritualistic statement or some sort of superstitious statement. It's a statement of a sensitive human being who realizes that, wait a minute, I know that life is very, very frail. I know that people do die. I don't know if I'm going to be here. And therefore, I don't want to have to rely on my merit. So that's why we make such a statement. So be careful.
That something happened and it's true. You say, I swear that's going to happen.
So that's not really an oath. That's like swearing a chair is a chair. Well, you won't only swear like that. One had to swear like that, but again, we don't want to do it. We don't want to make an oath about something. It's not a good thing to do. Say it. If the person doesn't believe you, they don't believe you. But still, we shouldn't make an oath. But the point I want to make is, again, what do we see from that? We see you have to respect God's name. You have to respect a person's body. You have to respect boundaries. There has to be respect for the property of the other, and that's the third principle. Third principle is respect the other's possessions, respect their property, respect their boundary. Have respect for what is theirs. It's not all yours. There are things that people have that are theirs, and be careful with it. In the yeshiva world, the first piece of Talmud you teach little boys in 5th grade, they start learning the Holy Talmud, and you sit down with them and you start teaching them. You know what's the first thing that you teach them? First thing you teach them is a famous Gemara, Shnai Moksim B'Talis, which means that two people find a talis on the street and they both pick it up at the same time. What do you do with it? Whose is it? So different things. Do we split it? Do we cut it in half? Do we put it away in, till Eliyahu Navi comes? I don't know. Do we fight over it? There are different opinions. Who gets this little talis over here? And the question is, why is that the first piece of Talmud Gemara that we teach little boys? You know what it is? What the reason is? Maybe we should teach them the laws of Shabbos. We teach them the laws of Brachot. Why this laws about whose possession, whose property? First thing you have to teach children is there's something called mine and yours. They're boundaries. Whose is it? We live in a world where there has to be relationship building, and relationship building depends on realizing what is mine and what is yours. And when those boundaries are blurred, there's war, there's disharmony, there's all sorts of fighting. First thing, what's mine and what's yours? Whose is it? Things belong to me and belong to you. That were given me from God and for you from God. Who gets it? Whose is it? Okay, respect the other's boundaries and properties. Let's take the next one. Number 4. This is interesting. Commandment number 4 is keep Shabbos. Commandment number 5 is don't bear false witness in a court of law. Someone brings you into a Jewish court and asks you to be a witness, tell the truth. Don't swear falsely. What's the connection between Shabbos and not swearing falsely? What's the connection? What's the connection? Got it? Number 4, Zuchos Yom Shabbos HaKadosh Show. Number 9, Losana. What's the connection over there? Shabbos and...
Because by keeping Shabbat, you're like a witness that God created the world.
Beautiful. Shabbos, what's Shabbos all about? What do we do when we keep Shabbat? When we keep Shabbat, we're actually testifying. Shabbos is a day of testimony. We're testifying that God is the creator of the universe, and not only did he create the universe, he's actively involved in his creation, demonstrated by the fact that he took us out of Egypt. Now, where do we see this? We see this, of course, when we make the Kiddush. Friday night, what do we say? We make a blessing over a glass of wine. We take nice red wine. It's supposed to be wine that's not mevushal, that's not cooked. Wine that's your best wine if you have it. Don't use grape juice. I use grape juice a lot, but if you don't use grape juice. It's better not to. take that beautiful red wine. Why red wine, not white wine? Why red wine? And don't tell me blood. People say blood, blood. I say that's the wrong religion. No, not wrong. That's not Judaism. You know why red? Because red draws the senses. Red attracts. Red gets you salivating, like Pavlov's dog. And you look at that red wine, and you start thinking, ooh, I can't wait to taste this. And you look at it, and you're totally focused in. And what are you focused in on? You're focused in on the declaration that you're making. God, you are the creator of the universe. In 6 days you created, on the 7th day you rested. Therefore I am going to cease creative activity on this day as testimony that you are the creator. And not only are you the creator, but you took us out of the land of Egypt. You didn't just wind up the world and set it in motion. You're actively involved in your creation. At every moment you're breathing life into the world. That's what we Orthodox Jews believe. That God didn't just wind it up and step back. God is constantly involved in every microsecond, in every aspect of micromanagement of our lives. God's intimately involved. And that's the declaration of truth that we're making. Therefore Shabbos is a declaration of testimony, of truth. And that's why we stand up. When we say Kiddush, we stand up. Why? Because a witness stands up in a Jewish Beit Din. If you're giving testimony in court, you stand. God, we're testifying about the truth of you. You're the creator of this world and you're involved in the creation. Truth. And what does it mean on commandment number 9? Commandment number 9 says, don't bear false witness against somebody else. What does that mean? It means tell the truth. Look for truth. Look for what's true about the other. Look for what's true about God, and look for what's true about somebody else. So I think the connection is that if a relationship is going to really be good with God, is look for what's true about God. You know, the more we could focus on the truth of what God is, the more we love God. You know, and we can deal with the minor inconveniences of life. You know, we all go through certain stages in our life where things are difficult. Nobody is free or immune from pain in life. That's part of life. And God created it. But when things are painful in life, if we're going to be truthful about God and say, wait a minute, God, you know, I admit right now I'm going through something difficult. But wait a minute, at the same time, you keep my digestive tract functioning. You keep my heart pumping. You keep my lungs working. I seem to have 3 meals to eat every day. I seem to have clothing to wear. I get bucked Thursday night. You know, if we're going to focus on what God does for us, I planted him over here. I planted him. If we're going to focus on what God does for us and be truthful about it, if you think about it, life is a different life. It's a different world. Do you hear what I'm saying? Truthful. If we're going to really have a relationship with God, it means true. Be real. Focus on everything God does. And therefore, when things are difficult in life, extrapolate back and say, wait a minute, but you've done so much good for me. Maybe there's good in this also. 99% of the time, things go well. And even when things don't go well, there's so much going well that maybe I should ignore that. I shouldn't necessarily criticize God. Be truthful in your relationship with God. So too it means in your relationship with human beings. Look for truth. You know, oftentimes we have a relationship with somebody, a husband, wife, mother, father, brother, sister, and we get really upset with them. They do something that bothers us. You know, but if we're going to focus from the point of truth, we'll say, wait a minute, but look what this person's done for me. You know, this person has cared for me, taken care of me, always gives to me. Or let me look at this person. This person has such nice qualities, such kind qualities, such good qualities. So this person did one little thing now. It doesn't negate them as a human being. I've seen too much evidence of how good they are to take this one thing and negate it. See how it works? For relationships to function properly, one has to be truthful about what they see. Shabbos teaches us to declare the truth about God. Not swearing falsely in a court of law teaches us to tell the truth when in relationships with other human beings. Tell the truth. Look for truth. And if you look for truth about what God does for you, wow, I could deal with the difficult moments. If I look for truth about what my wife does for me constantly, I can deal with the moments where, you know, maybe I'm upset about something. Or maybe she's upset with me about something. Because she looks for the truth of, wait a minute, the qualities that I have. Or what she likes about me. Or what, you know, the general ways we try to be good to each other. Do you hear how it works? Look for what is true. Keep your eyes open to see reality truthfully. See it with God, see it with another human being. Point number 6. Point number 5. What's commandment number 5? Honor your parents. Commandment number 10? Don't covet. Don't be jealous. Don't desire what someone else has. What's the connection between honoring your parents and not desiring what someone else has? What's the connection? It's a hard one, I think. What's the connection?
Honor your parents and God. It's like also you don't offend people by offending them either. It's like that's the one that's with you with God, like the real reverence to God is through your parents because they're creators, and you just revere them. You're supposed to also like not do anything to like go against like a goodness that you should have with people too.
Okay. Other suggestions? Girls, yeah?
Don't desire other parents.
What's that?
Don't desire other parents.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. In fact, we're told in the Zohar that it says that before a child is born, a child asks for these parents. The neshama, the soul, before it comes in this world, actually asks that it wants these parents to be the parents. That's very interesting. You're right. That's something very fascinating about that. Yeah. Other suggestions? Okay, Ezra? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Maybe if you want to appreciate your parents, you can look outside and see what other people have. Just look inside your house and appreciate them.
Right. I think it's a similar concept, right? You want to appreciate parents? Like, don't look around. Yeah?
Don't desire the car.
Don't desire the car. Uh-huh. Assuming they have a nice car. Right, don't desire it. Interesting. Yeah, no suggestion?
If you realize where you're coming from and the uniqueness of your parents and the uniqueness of yourself, then you also realize everything a person is given is unique to that person, so you don't desire what someone else has, but it's essentially that.
What's your name? Betty. Betty just said something brilliant. Now, I say it's brilliant because what I'm going to say, it's just the same thing I'm going to say, so maybe that's why I'm going to say it's brilliant. The big I, since I'm going to say it. But I do think that we're thinking along the same lines. Let me explain what I mean. Why would a person covet? Why does one covet? Why does one desire what someone else has? Yeah, where does it come from? It really comes from the fact that I really don't feel that I'm important, that I'm special. If a person really to focus and say, like, I have something really important to contribute to this world, that I have a mission that nobody else can accomplish, that I can be a father to my children like no one else can be a father to their children, or these children, I can be brother to my brother like no one else can be brother to my brother. If a person really focuses on their value, and that their mission in life is totally separate than everybody else's mission, and the Gemara says, Eina nogea l'makom chaveo kimlo nima. We can't touch even a hair's breadth of what belongs to somebody else. That we're operating in our own laboratory in life. We feel sometimes that, someone else succeeds, it takes away from me. It's not the way the world works. God created every human being individually, one at a time, with a face that's unique and special, to teach us a very important principle. That we are totally unique and special with separate missions in life. Our missions have nothing to do with anybody else. If a person is covetous, desires, and is jealous of what someone else has, it really comes from the point of not appreciating that I have something special to contribute. Do you know how that works? That's really where it emanates from. Now, it works in the same way with parents. Why would a person not respect their parents? Well, let's see. If a person doesn't really feel that there's somebody special, they won't give importance to the people who brought them to the planet. The degree to which a person says, I am somebody of value and importance, is the degree to which one will give honor to one's parents. And that's why it says, one doesn't have to like one's parents. One has to like oneself. And if one likes oneself, one will want to give honor to the physical beings that brought oneself into this world. So what's the connection? What do we see? Honoring one's parents, not coveting. It's really the same concept. For relationships to work in the human realm, well, let's see. One has to realize that one is important, that I matter. Oftentimes people get into relationships because they want the other to complete them. That's wrong. Now, it doesn't mean there aren't complementary issues that do go on in relationships. There's a degree of completion, 100%. But one has to realize that one is coming to the relationship from a position of strength, that they are of value, that I have value. Now, why is that so important? It's so important on so many levels. Because if one realizes that they are of value, they will appreciate the value of the other. If one realizes that they are somebody significant, therefore the same respect and honor one demands for oneself, one will give to somebody else. It's not about a gaiva trip or an ego trip. It's about realizing that I have value. If I have value, you have value. The degree to which I can see the value in myself is the degree to which I can see the value in you. And if one can see the value of the other, one will treat the other with respect and dignity and honor. But it emanates from the core of realizing that I am somebody significant. And therefore jealousy, desiring, coveting, that's the antithesis, that's the opposite of such a thought pattern. That means that I really don't think that I have something special to offer, that I'm jealous of what you have. No, I was born on the planet on a certain time, a certain date, a certain location from these parents, because I have a special mission in this world. I have a mission, I am important. That's how one has to go into a relationship with another human being. And therefore I am deserving of honor, and I'm going to give you the same honor that I feel that I'm deserving of. Now it's the same relationship with God, if you think about it. You know, by God or one's parents, one has to honor one's parents because one honors oneself. I honor my parents because I appreciate these are the people that brought me here. Not because I am the capital I, but I do matter. I do matter. I am significant. So therefore one doesn't necessarily have to like one's parents, but one has to honor them. Because I honor them because they brought me here. And I am of value. Now, of course, obviously with parents, to the degree to which we can focus on the good they do for us. You know, and the degree to which we can focus on how much they give us, and how much they worry about us, and how much they care for us, and how much they invest in us, and even the things we don't know that they did. And when you're a parent, you'll appreciate how much your parents did for you. You know, obviously that should engender and build tremendous amount of gratitude and love. But even in the harshest situation where a parent can be abusive or do something like throw your money into the water or spit in your face in front of your whole court of students, you have to respect and honor them because you are of importance and they brought you to this world. See how it works. So perhaps the fifth point, which might even be the most important point, is for relationships to flourish properly, there has to be an appreciation of the value of me, the value of self. And that's so important. Because if I can't value myself, I'm not going to properly value you. I think we see the greatest proof for this in the Torah is by the case of Bilam. We know the story that there was a prophet in the Torah named Bilam, and he had a donkey. And this donkey was sent to try to stop Bilam from cursing the Jewish people. So God performed a miracle. What was the miracle? The miracle was the donkey started talking and started to say to Bilam, look, don't do it, go back, don't curse the Jewish people. Bilam ignored the donkey and he kept going forward. A talking donkey. What happened to that donkey at the end of the story? Besides you? What happened to the donkey at the end of the story? Well, God sent an angel to kill it. To kill the donkey. Society's spew would be very upset. Is spew the right name for society? What's the Society for the Protection of Animal Rights? PETA, right. Now spew is from Harry Potter, that's right. That's right. The Society for the Protection of Animal Rights would be very upset. The donkey was killed. The donkey was killed. Now if you asked me, I would have said keep that donkey alive. Parade the donkey around Forest Hills and show people, look, talking donkey. If you try to betray God, you try to go against God's will, look, God will make a donkey speak up and stop you. Even a donkey has more seichel than a person trying to betray God. But what does God do? God says no. He has an angel come down with a sword and kill that donkey. And Rabbi Akiva tells us why. Rabbi Akiva tells us that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has mercy for the honor of his creation. Meaning what? If people are going to look at this evil guy named Bilam and say that there was a donkey, the lowest type creature, a physical creature, that could be greater on some level than a human being, you know what that will do? It will destroy the way we see ourselves. If we could see one human being as being lower than a donkey, it means we're not going to see ourselves properly. If we're going to have proper respect, we have to realize that every human being is created in the image of God, and every human being, therefore, is worthy of respect, and therefore this donkey has to die. We can't look at a human being as being lower than a donkey, even the lowest human being, because it would destroy the self-respect in all of us. Therefore, it means if we're to look at another human being and not seeing them properly, we're not seeing ourselves properly. And it works the other way as well. In order to see another human being as being worthy of respect, you have to see that you're worthy of respect. You have to realize that you're important, you're significant. And perhaps that's principle number 5. And therefore we have to get in touch with that in ourselves. We have to appreciate really how valuable we are. You have to appreciate it about yourselves. You have to discover what's valuable about yourselves. You have to see it in yourselves. If you can't see it in yourselves, you'll speak to me and I'll tell you what's valuable about you. I will. Because sometimes we can't always see it, but we have to know it, we have to discover it. And for relationships to flourish, you have to discover it. You got to go into marriage or any relationship from the point of view that I know my value. Because the only way you're going to value the other. Yeah?
No, you answered my question.
What was the question? Good, is it? We answered it, we answered it. Okay, let's review. Quick review. And then we'll finish the bush. Quick review is, what did we say? We said that the 10 Commandments are very specific because these 10 Commandments are really the how-to to accomplish the principle of Torah. The whole principle of life is v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, loving another being, getting outside of yourself, being selfless, not being selfish, being other-centered. That's what it means to have a relationship with God. That's what it means to have a relationship with people. If that's the goal of life, then the 10 Commandments have to be the means to achieve it. And then we asked the question, and we said, wait a minute, 5 and 5. Well, there are 5 that have to do between man and his creators, 5 have to do between man and man. And then we said the Medrash that said, wait a minute, the Medrash says they really face each other, so there's a corresponding relationship between 1 and 6, 2, 7, 3, 8, 4, 9, 5, 10, which means there are really 5 operating principles. And what were the 5 operating principles? Let's review. Number 1 is, in order for relationships to flourish, recognize the other exists outside of you. They are not you. They are outside of you. And when you love them, you're not just loving yourself, you're loving them for who and what they are. We're not loving God because He's the great candy man in the sky. We're loving God because of His beautiful, wonderful midos. His attributes, His chesed, His kindness, His mercy. All those wonderful things that He does for us constantly. We're loving Him for who God is. We're loving our spouse, our wife, our husband, not because they make us feel good or give us pleasure, but because we recognize the greatness of the other outside of ourselves. Number 2, we wanted to set principle number 2, no idols, no adultery. Underlying principle was, see the uniqueness of the other. If you see the uniqueness of the other, no physical part of anybody else will substitute for that person. It doesn't make sense. You can't have a physical representative of God because of God's uniqueness, how special He is, and you can't have somebody else's ears to replace this person's ears if you really see the uniqueness of the soul and the neshama of the other. Number 3, we said, don't take God's name in vain, don't kidnap, respect the property and boundaries of the others, respect property. Number 4, keep Shabbos, don't bear false witness. Truth, look for truth in life, look for truth about God, you'll love God. You'll be able to deal with difficult situations in your life. Even when things don't go well, you'll discover, wait a minute, God, but you do so much for me. Maybe I could deal with this little inconvenience, or maybe this inconvenience is really good. With one's wife, one's husband, wait a minute, you do so much good for me, maybe I could see this little flaw that you're doing today as something separate from who you really are. Look for truth. And finally, number 5, we said, see the uniqueness in yourself. You can honor your parents. Why? Because you really realize how special you are. And therefore, they brought you to this planet. You can truly not be jealous of what someone else has because you appreciate that you have a special mission in life. Wanted to appreciate the value of oneself. In summary, existence, uniqueness, boundaries, truth, self-respect. Existence, uniqueness, boundaries, truth, self-respect, bushed. Okay. Thank you everybody for listening. I'll take a few questions if you have any.